We have an image of masculinity that is of strength, of power, and something that is very easy to get, very easy to see when we think of that. We think of stoicism, we think of determination, we think of power, we think of dominating, we think of winning and all these different things. Yet the subtleties of what makes all those things work, what makes somebody develop into a great man is a lot more subtle than just the simplicity of seeing that strength. And what I want to talk about here is in our culture, how we've distorted masculinity and femininity, and not to the point where we get to blame or be angry or be resentful about the opposite, but to look at really what makes us men, to look at really what gives us strength. And I'm going to talk to you from a point of where I have lived a very experienced life, but more importantly, I have worked with and taught for the last 15 years, thousands of men who have done this. And our stories of strength and really building a long-term good trail of a great life was nothing quick, nothing simple, and nothing cheap, and nothing something that could just be done by a reframe or a couple of months in a gym or a situation. It is a lifetime that we built of greatness. And this is what I want to talk to you about now, the real value and strength of masculinity. Let's get to it. Gentlemen, what is happening? Steve Mayeda, and this is coming from a call on our TSL Online program. And this is one of our upper tier programs that focuses on social dynamics, sex, relationships, and so on, a very huge part of masculinity. Yet at the same time, we're talking about this great draw that happens in how we find our true greatness. And I do not use that in some cheap way because I'm 43 years old. I've seen a lot of pain. I know people that have seen way more, and it's not a competition, but compared to the average person, there's a lot of stuff, of myself with addiction, with a lot of horrible stuff with addiction, but also with custody and divorces and so on. And this is why in the coaching that we do is so dynamic. And I've been doing coaching for 15 years and I've done it for a long time. Somebody left YouTube. It's crazy, but somebody left this comment like, "You're just some hack." That, like, no, man, really, I've worked, and you can fact check it or whatever, or say whatever. Like for 15 years, I've worked very heavily with men. I've worked a lot with addicts, a lot with addiction, and I've worked a lot with social dynamics. I've worked a lot with trauma and these things, divorced men. Like this is my life. This is what I do. And there's literally thousands of guys that I've worked with that you can find from this. So this is interesting because we are in a world, and let me just tell you the situation. A gentleman of ours who's going through a massive breakup in the context of divorce, of where he's challenged. His ex is moving on. He has bore the burden of wanting to, not attack her, to do the right thing, to, at a certain point, it's been a while now, but to work on the marriage, work on the relationship, see if he could save it. And it didn't work out. And those things are really terrible when that happens. That's a pain that we all know and we all feel. And it's almost impossible not to be angry in those situations. And you're definitely allowed to be. But when we start moving that anger into blame and into hatred and into chaos and into attacking and these types of things, we move in a way where we get a quick fix. We don't work on them, and we start losing the traits of masculinity. So when we are in deficit of masculinity, we start to feel a lack of strength, right? We start to feel taken advantage of. And there's no shortage of examples in this world of where and how that happens, of how we got screwed over in child support, got screwed over in the courts. Men bear a burden of depression more, of addiction. These are all things that I've had and lived, and to a really horrific degree in my life. And when I was doing my meditation earlier today, and then when I had the call and we had a 3-hour discussion, not just about this, about many things, one of the things that was huge for me was that when we are learning about strength and finding our strength as a man, finding our integrity as a man, finding our power as a man, finding our ability to dominate, finding out our ability to win, that has so much less to do with society and the world around us and the actual feedback from that, and more to do with my own personal journey. Now, this is me, but in the call, we discussed it quite a bit, because when it is only about how I win in a certain area or how I look or how strong I am, and I only fit that image, we lose the true power of what it means to be a man. Because I'm going to tell you this, like in my life, I've seen very scary things, and my friends have seen worse, my addict friends and so on. It's horrifically worse, but I've, gotten the shit beat out of me. It hasn't stopped. It's terrible. I've had all sorts of sexual assaults. I've had abuse growing up. I've had really bad things happen, and I've done really bad things myself. And those things are what everybody would agree is horrific in life. These are the reasons why you could have trauma and perhaps have a bad life. But the worst things about that time were really the isolation and the loneliness and the repetition of failure. Once, first, when you get robbed or your car gets stolen or you go to jail or whatever it is, it's like, sort of addict life. You can blame other people, but eventually you realize, no, you're the one suffering here, and it's you. And more for a conversation later. But literally, some of the scariest things that I've had happen in my life have been more recently as I've dove deep into the emotional sides of myself. And this is the past 5 years or so. The addiction thing is a daily work, but I've been clean for some time now and, work with people. I would never want to say I've got this thing beat or handled, but I'm in a good spot with it. But as that gave me the opportunity to dive deeper into emotional issues of my past and what that means, and loss and failure, what it means to be without, what it means to walk around in my own skin as perhaps a loser or a failure or somebody that is not right, something that men are so afraid to walk in. This is really where I found my strength. And I want you to think about this, because let's say you're sad because you got picked on and you never want to lose again, so you're always going to win. If we're unable to walk with our reality of who we were, we can never be great with who we are now. And from my understanding and what I work with my guys on, and which is very important, I think, for you to understand, or the message of this video, is if you hide behind that by always winning, or doing something physical about yourself, which is good. There's nothing wrong with winning. I want you to be a champion. I want you to dominate in all those ways. If you do it with your social ranking or social status and people like you, I want people to like you. But if you use that to not uncover the shadow side of yourself or the darker sides of yourself, then you are just covering it up. And in fact, you're maintaining that fear. By winning, you're not enjoying the expression of it, but you're doing it because you fear losing. And see, the interesting thing about myself, especially, like I said, in the last couple of years of work for myself, it has been that I can walk around with loss. I can walk around with pain. I don't care if I'm sad. Well, I do care. It's upsetting. I don't care what you think if I'm hurt or broken. I don't care if I'm embarrassing myself in these ways. And this can happen. This will inevitably happen in life, because I should push myself in the reality of the world. Because if I can be okay with that and determine who I am, and yet still function in life with people in front of me, well, being quote unquote weak or losing or whatever, and still taking a step forward, that is the man that I want to be. Now, of course, I want to prevent failures. I want to prevent damage. I want to prevent those things, but I don't want to prevent them because I fear losing. I want to prevent them because I don't want hurt. I don't want damage. I don't want bad things happening. Yet at the same time, if it means reality, if it means that I did make a mistake, I want to live it. And that is something which I think we've gotten away from so much about masculinity. Right now, we're in this time of masculinity where we get that there's a lot of things wrong. We get that we are in deficit of it, but we're not learning how to find real strength. We're learning how to show we have strength. And it's really sad, because we have all these internet superheroes that we follow. We have a lot of people looking strong who could be strong, but we don't know them. We don't see how they live. We don't work with them. And we don't really get to know that. And at least for me, what has been so important on this path that is moved to these great levels is it goes beyond image, it goes beyond status, it goes beyond all these different things. And what it moves into is who we can be in front of who we are right now in this moment. And man, is the beauty that we do not talk about enough in terms of masculinity. See, masculinity is an amazing thing. And like I said, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done like crazy stuff. And when I think about it, sure, maybe in my teens and 20s, I did things to prove myself because I didn't know who I was. But by the time I was 30, I was already broken and wrecked by the world, and especially through addiction. And I think addiction is part of that. In the search of myself, in the attempt to prove myself, somehow I found myself homeless and doing drugs and lying, cheating, stealing, fighting, getting your ass kicked, whatever, all that sort of great stuff which goes along with it. And then in my 30s, what I learned was I had to humble myself. And I had to realize that there was a strength in that. And I had to realize that a lot of the men that were talking to me about building their lives up in that time didn't have the 20s of challenge that I had. And in those 20s, like, I challenged myself. I toured around, I played music, I got in a lot of fights. I did a lot of stuff with women. I was a lot in that, all that stuff even continued into my 30s with fighting in regular ways and like jujitsu and MMA and stuff like that. And then in, dating in different ways, maybe that calmed down a little bit. But the thing is that when I see these men reaching for it, they're reaching for it because they don't have a sense of self. What makes me go into cold water, what makes me challenge my body, what makes me want to go on these crazy hikes, what makes me want to continue to do jujitsu or challenge myself in these ways, and I could do more. I don't even think that I do it the best, but what makes me want to drive more into entrepreneurship, into business, into success, into family, and so on, is not because I have a deficit of self. It's because I want an exploration deeper into the understanding of why I want to express myself. Who am I and what is this going to do? It is all a relationship with me, and that's what's important. And the image of what I have around other people, of course, that matters. But man, if it means finding a greater part of myself, that I have to be sad in front of you or broken in front of you, man, that's an amazing thing. Guys, I really want to promote this as we have a community here. We have a community here. We just got done with this amazing call. I think it went in total for almost 5 hours, but for 3 hours I was on it. I was working with the men. And it's such a beautiful thing. And if this is something that you want, that was a TSL online call. You can do our starter package for just a couple bucks a month. You get all these challenges, PDFs, videos breaking down the PDFs, and they're organized in a way where you will learn how to get your purpose and ambition in check, your rebuild, your mind, your body, to get these things in sync, to get your social dynamics settled, to all these different things. You will get that, but also you will get calls with me personally coaching you twice a week. And that's pretty amazing, right? A very, very important thing. And it's for a couple bucks a month. Now, I get it. A lot of people may not want to take that, but if this is something that you want to do and really move into that part of your life, well, that is what we do. In any case, guys, the strength of being a man is a great thing. Don't sell yourself short on it. Don't waste your time and buy into this hyper image of masculinity that is really a mask for being hurt. And move into really this great expression of seeking, of finding, of experiencing. And that is where the greatness comes from. Because when you can stand in your own skin, on your own 2 feet, man, that is a beautiful thing in any storm that comes your way. And that is that's one of my greatest life achievements. And that's something that I've got to experience multiple times in my life, and hopefully again tomorrow. All right. Hopefully I'll talk to you guys on the calls soon. If not, see you later. From YouTube land or Facebook or social media stuff. We'll talk to you guys soon. All right.